Hello guys, welcome back. Um, I quickly want to do some tuts as well. So I want to do tut 2. Okay, so I know it says, yeah, let me just write the title. So tutorial 2, and what is it? So it's input and output. Input, output with files and control structures. Structures. Yeah, bro. Okay, I just want to read it out. So, flowcharts design an algorithm to calculate the difference between the square of the sum and the sum of the square of the first n natural numbers. The square of the sum of the first n natural numbers is given by that, and the sum of the square of the first natural numbers is given by that. Cool. So, before you to touch, so yeah, okay. So cool. My videos are live, so subscribe. And while I'm coding live next time, you can watch and also interact with me on YouTube. Um, and I could answer your questions live. Okay. So we have two uh algorithms given to us, or we need to design an algorithm, and we're given two um series, right? So the first one calculates. Uh, I love Near Mosque. The first one calculates uh, the square of the sum, right? And the second one calculates the sum of the squares for n natural numbers, right? Okay. So I am going to give n a value. And when we name variables, we start with a small letter because we're not naming, what are these called? Custom types or something. Alright. Anyway, small alphabet. Always name it small. I'm gonna do them for the first 10. Okay. So I create a variable there, and then I'm gonna create. Oh, sorry. So sorry. So sorry. So sorry. It's gonna be an integer. Then I'm gonna create. Since I'm not gonna be working with any. I'm working with natural numbers. Uh, since the natural numbers, they could be like they could have decimal places and stuff. They don't have to be. Am I getting this right? Natural numbers. Whole numbers I know are integers, so natural numbers I'm assuming it could have decimal places in them. So when I'm storing the sum, the square of the sum, right? I'm gonna store it in here. I'm gonna call this uh, the sum, which will be squared, right? Just gonna name it like that. And for now, I'm gonna equate it to 0. And then I'm gonna make another one. I showed how to declare um, variables of the same type on one line in my other video. which was the 2017 test one. So you should check out that video. Scroll in the comments. It's given. I did comment the sections there. Yeah, I put timestamps where you can watch topic specific tutorials of within the video. Okay, another double I'm gonna call. So we have the sum of sum squared, right? And we're gonna have another one called it's not the sum squared, right? So it's the, I'm gonna call it a base value, right? I hope you know what I'm saying. Okay, let me just call it. It's gonna be confusing if I say squared sum. Okay, base value, which is my x value. Okay, so base value, which is my x value, that will be squared and then summed up. Okay, and I'm gonna create another one, and this will be the sum of the base values together. I'm also going to equate it to 0. Cool. Then I'm going to make a for loop, and inside I'm going to start at, I'm going to call it, I can't call it n because I used n, so I'm going to call this term, I'm going to use this as n. So while n is going, it's going to start at 0 and will go up to and including term, which is for now 10, and we're going to say n will go in steps of 1, right? Then what do we do? Let's assume that our base value, which I'm going to call x, which for now I'm gonna assume is an integer. I'm gonna call it, for example, 5, right? So what we're gonna do is every time okay. So one of them, what does one do? One takes the sum first, right? So it gets the sum and then squares the whole thing. I hope you understand what I'm saying. Oh, first n natural numbers. Okay, sorry. X is going to be changing, right? So we're going to take our n value. That's like x of I, right? And then I'm going to say that I want to get my sum, which I will square, right? So sum squared is going to equals to n. Okay, let me just call this sum so I don't confuse anyone. Sum, which is going to be n, is going to equal to my previous sum plus n. Why? Sum starts at 0 And remember, within this loop, I'm taking the first n natural numbers. Natural numbers, which I'm assuming is 1 to 10. Okay, and some will start at 0, will then take in zeros, and then some which will be 0 when n is 1 will then be 1. So remember, I'm including 1 in my new sum. In my new sum, I need to include 1 plus the new term that's coming in. Okay, and then after that loop is done, right, what do? I have to square sum, right? So make another one called sum squared equals to 0. Then I'm gonna have sum squared it's gonna equal to my total sums, my total sum squared. I can use that instead of CMath. Cool. Sum times sum. Cool. And then remember, I'm going to use this calculation in my algorithm, right? It's going to be each sum squared, yeah, minus each value in the other algorithm, which I'm going to do now, right? So making another for loop, and in this for loop, same thing, n is equals to 0. Oh, yeah. So since n is declared within this parentheses, okay, for this for loop, once I close this bracket, like n gets erased, so I can use n here again. Less than equals to term n plus plus. Okay, so for this one, right, I'm not summing. Can you see here? I squared after I summed the total. In this case, we're going to take in, in this case, I need to, let me just erase these two because, yeah, I was not making sense. Double, no, I was base value, which is my x value, which is my n value. Double n squared, right? So my n value that's coming in, I'm just going to square it. So for now, these initializations are not important if you're just going to use them. Okay, for some it's important. For like sum squared, like I made it 0, but can you see automatically it's going to take on this value. So when you're writing small programs like this, it's not really important, but if you have like a really huge program and you've used sum squared before, previously in a previous code, whatever, and you call it here, it will retain the previous value that it had. So initializing them to 0 is a good practice, and I recommend that you do it. And even if you're writing a small program. So in this case, we're going to square the number before we sum it. Okay, so I'm going to have another variable and call it n squared sum. Okay, so my n squared sum is going to equals to the previous n squared sum plus n squared. Okay, so I don't even need this. N times n. Okay. So this one is going to take the previous x of I, if you look at your formula, the new x of I, and create a sum for that. Okay. And now this is where I store like the final answer, right? So I can do it in one line. So double, so I'm gonna call this a squared algorithm. Call it whatever you want. Final sum even. It's okay. Final sum is gonna equals to my sum squared minus my n squared sum n squared sum. Done. I'm just gonna see out that answer. I want to see what it looks like. There's something, you know, these maths things comes up with the. Okay, I don't know what that number means. I'm assuming that if you sum numbers and then square them, they end up being greater than you squaring the individual numbers. And then adding them up. Yeah, that makes sense. That's like saying for plus, I hope I don't make a mistake, 6 is equals to 10, and then 10 squared squared is equals to 100, right? And then I say 4 squared, which is 16, and I add that to 6 squared, which is 36. That only gives me 52. So I can't believe that. I can't believe it is true. Cool. So we're done with one. Okay. For part two, I'm just going to decrease this. Come on, go down. Right. So for part two, this is how you comment if you're going to write stories. So for part two, okay, it's like input or output terminal and files. So I'm just going to keep with the alphabets here. So mark the following statements as true or false. Okay, let's go. A, the instruction operator forward or greater than skips all leading white space characters when searching for the next data in the input stream. That is true. Oh wow, that is true. It's true, but I want to say true, but only when reading certain data types. And why I said is because imagine now you're reading in characters, okay? And we know that what a space is also a character, like that. You know what I'm saying? So if you're reading in characters and you have a space there, it's going to take the space. Okay. Okay, so 1B, what is it? In the statement for C in X must be a variable. This is quite tricky. I'm going to say that is true. It does not have to be. Yeah, it does have to be a variable. True. Yeah, okay. True. C. No explanation, just true. C. The statement C in X then Y requires the input values for X and Y to appear on the same line. The input values. That's true. If you wanted to put them on different lines, you just have to see in X, and then below that you'd have to see out an end line, and then see in Y, and then those will be on different lines. Or if it's in an input file, which could be the case like that. And it's also true because if in your input file you have 1, 2, the only way, if you're reading in like this XY, then it's assuming that on the same line in your input file you have 2 values, okay, which are separated by the space. Okay, so true. Let's go to D. The statement C in num is equivalent to the statement num C in. No, big false, big false. If you're gonna write num into C in this case, the only way that would work would be, it wouldn't work first of all because C in is uh, recognized as sure, what do I even say? It's a fixed name given to a command in C++ in code blocks or in C++ for reading in from the console input, C in console input. Right. You could have num x or num x, but that would assume that, remember when we did the thingy of if stream and stuff, where if you named your object num as num, then num, remember, would now be the object that would be used to read in a variable x. But if you're gonna have num C in, it is definitely not equals to C in num. Please don't assume my shorthand writing here is some condition you can use in an if statement or something. Please, but that is the correct way of saying not equals to. You just can't compare these two things. It does not make sense. Okay, E. You generate the new line character. You generate the new line character by pressing enter on the keyboard. Yes, so this is true. What it actually means is that when you're creating your input.text, right? Inside there, so you're now in Notepad. You know when you're in Notepad and you want to go to the next line, you press what? Enter. So it is true that C++ recognizes the next line in a text file is a new line. So let's go to F. The function ignore is used to skip certain input in a line. Sure, I'm gonna Google that now. I'm sorry, you can't see my Google screen. You can only see the coding screen. Does the ignore function, what does the ignore function in C++ do? Yes. Cin.ignore function is used which is used to ignore clear one or more characters from the input buffer. By pressing the enter key after the first input, nonsense. Let's go to Stack Overflow. Ignore is exactly what the name implies. It doesn't throw away something you don't need. Instead, it ignores the amount of characters you specify when you call it, up to the character you specify as a breakpoint. It works with both input and output buffers. Essentially, for standard cin statements, you can use ignore before you do a getLine call, because when a user inputs something with standard cin, they hit enter and a /line, which is get new line character, gets into the cin buffer. Then if you use getLine, it gets the new line character instead of the string you want. So you do a standard cin.ignore 1000 / and that should clear the buffer up to the string that you want. The 1000 is put there to skip over a specific amount of characters before the specified breakpoint, in this case the new line characteristic. Cool. Okay, so what I learned is that the function ignore is used to skip certain inputs in a line. It is true. Why? Because I just read it on Stack Overflow and I trust those people. Anyway, what I learned is that in your input file, right? Let's say you have a story like Justin killed. Wow. Let me just put this in the next line. So Justin killed a bee. Full stop. You know, when we want to skip a line, there's a different way of doing it. You have this thing, which is a shortcut or shorthand for going to the next line. Let's say you have this as a string in your input file, right? What ignore will do is that while you are reading in, for example, you are using getLine or using cin, what you can do is create you can create something like cin.ignore. Okay, this is what I just read. So use Google. Google is your friend. So what this is going to do is that for 1000 characters, can you see here, there's probably like 15 to 20 characters. So for the next 1000 characters, it's going to ignore this, it's going to ignore this and just take Justin killed a bee in your cin. Maybe you're storing it in X. So it does, it's true. It does what it says and it says what it does. Okay, let's go to question 2. And what is this asking us to do? Suppose x and y are int variables and z is a double variable. Suppose x and y are int variables and z is a double variable. Assume the following input data. What value is assigned to x, y, and z after each of the following statements? Execute. Use the same input for each statement. Check yourself by implementing the code and displaying the variables after they are read in. What is this question asking us to do? What I think it's asking us to do, okay, that's number 1, right? So this is number 2. Okay, so in number 2, I am going to so x and y are integers and z is a double. Okay, so let me just make those quickly. So int x, int y. Don't ask me why I'm not initializing. I'm not initializing because I'm gonna input values into them now. That's why. Okay, so then what do we do? See, in the first line for a is like x, then y, then z. Okay, and then I'm gonna see out x, leave a space, y, leave a space, z, and do an end line. So oh, yeah, so what I'm gonna keep doing, I'm gonna run this code now. Oh, this is a useless thing. Okay, so I'm gonna read in this. So this is my command window like you all have on Windows. I'm gonna keep reading in the same numbers. So 37, 86.56. What are you doing? I only put in two numbers though. Let's try it again. Hey, don't tell me I forgot how to CN. This 2640 is the result from, yeah, because I was doing a C out. I can comment that out because of time. Right, I'm putting in 37, 86.56 and 32. Can you see what it did? So I'm assuming dots are used to separate numbers, especially if, remember, it was x, y, z, x, y, z, x and y were integers, x remained the same, but y took 86 and then pushed the 0.56 to z, which was the double. And 32 just got lost along the way. It was never recorded. Okay. Then I'm now switching up the order. Okay. So let me just write it down for also if you want to take this down. So in A, what happened was X remained 37, Y became 86, and Z became 0.56. That's weird. I don't know that was going to happen. Then for the second one, let me just rewrite it. I'm taking in X, then Z, then Y. Oh, sorry. Let me cut and paste this here. This one was what? This one was when we see in X. y, z. This one is where we're gonna see out x, y, and z. Okay, cool. I'm gonna run this, and I'm putting in 37, 86.56, and 32. Right. What? So if you put in x, then z, then y, x remains the same. Y, you know what? Let me just see out it the way. Yeah, no, it's fine. X, Y, and Z. I think what would make it more clear is that I need to do this so that you guys can see. X ne, space ne, X, and space, then Y, Y, and that's then Z, Z. Let's do that again. So we're putting in 37, 86.56, 32. So our X, oh, Kelvin mistakes, ne? Yeah, our X is 37, 32, and 86.56. So it gets printed out in the correct way because the integer went into the integer, the double went into the double. For the next one, C in Z, then C in X, then C in Y. Right. This is for C. And we're gonna see out that, yeah, see out that you wanna see the result. So 37, 86.56, 32. Our X, which is the second term, right, takes in the 86. Y, okay, wait, Z gets recorded first. Z gets the 37. Yeah. Then X, which is the second thing, takes the 86. Yeah. And then after the 86, there's a remainder of 0.56. And then Y, which takes the 0. Why does it take 0? It's an integer. And it's gonna cut out it's gonna truncate the answer into like an integer. So it takes the 0 only. If it was, let me make it, yeah. If it was like, if this took 86 and there was 1.56 left, it would have taken 1. So you understand that. Okay. So this was for C. Okay. Now let's see what's next. Okay, I'm going to comment these out so I don't see any errors. That was number 1, number 2. Now let's do number 3. What is number 3 saying? The following program is supposed to read two numbers from a file called input.data and write the sum of the numbers to a file called output.data. However, it fails to do so. Rewrite the program so that it accomplishes what it is intended to do. Also include statements to close the files. Okay, so we have, let's code that quickly. Let's use input files, okay? Include fstream, and then let's come here. And what we're going to write here is what we see there. In main, we have int num1, comma num2. Yeah, you see, they created 2. Okay, if stream in file. Okay, then they have out file dot open, and instead of output.dat, I'm going to use output.txt because .dat, I don't know what file format that is. And then they have in file num1, num2, and then they have out file sum is equals to num1 plus num2. Then they have the end line. Cool. And then they have return 0. I also got that. Right? So first things first, I would like to initialize this. And how we do that when the inline is with round braces. Next, you're creating an input file, a variable called input file of type ifstream. So in file is an object used to read in the data from input.txt. Okay, but can you see that there's no in this program where they actually open the input file? So what we're going to do is in file dot open input.txt. Don't forget the semicolon, right? Now we've opened that. Then they're opening this output.txt, right, using this object outfile.open. But can you see that this object is not even initialized? Like it's like use of undeclared identifier outfile. So it's like using outfile, but we don't know what, you haven't identified what outfile is. So I'm going to create out or give outfile an identity or a type and make it of type offstream or OFstream. Okay, so we are opening the input file, we are opening the output file, right? I mean these text files. Opened. Okay, I am going to my desktop now quickly, and I'm going to put in two values, so for num1 and num2. Remember, in true or false, we have to put it on one line, right? So I put in 1 and I left the space and I put in 2 and then I save the file. And the location of my file is in the same place as my main. That's very important, that this input.txt file is in the same place where your main is, otherwise it won't open it. It won't find it. Okay, it assumes that it's in the same location as your main. Okay, this output file.txt gets created automatically. When you open it, if it does not exist, it will create this. If it does exist, it's going to overwrite what is in there. Okay, so from the file, we're getting into these two numbers, and then to the out file, we're going to write this. Okay, so I just want to show you using cout because you can't really see anything else on my screen besides what I'm outputting. I'm going to run this code, and I should get 3 as the answer. Sum equals 3. Cool. So it works, right? So I'm going to take it back to my out file, which is the name there. And my out file should have sum equals 3. Cool. And it says that we should close the file. So when you close the files, in file.close, that's all you do. Out file.close. You use the objects to close. Don't say input.txt.close. No, that's wrong. You use the objects that you use to open the files. Use the same objects to close the files. Thank you. Now you're done. Now number 4 says, suppose that infile is an ifstream variable and it is associated with the file that contains the following data. Right. So now we are assuming, so it's telling us what to put in our input file. Okay, so I'm quickly going to go to my input file and I'm going to put in 27306, then a space, then I'm putting in the word savings, no inverted, quotation marks, none of that, right? So it's just savings, and then I'm putting in 7503.35. Okay, and then I'm saving it. I'm going back to my code now. Okay, my input file has changed. I would think write the C++ statements that reads and stores the input in the int variable account number, the second input the string variable account type, and the third input in the double variable balance. Okay. So for this one, yeah, it just wanted us to write statements. Okay, so I'm just gonna comment out number 3. I'm just gonna write statements for number 4, and I'm going to do that using comments. Okay, so this is for number 4. Number 4. Okay, so what do you first do? Create an input file variable of type ifstream. Don't forget your semicolon. Then, what did they call it? Infile, sorry. Infile, semicolon. Now, infile is going to open for me my input.txt. Don't forget your semicolons, please. Now the statement where you're gonna read in, okay? Infile. Oh, wait, before you read in to these variables, you need to declare them. So that we have an int called account number. You have a string called account type. Don't forget the semicolons, so important. and you have a double called balance. Right, now in your in file, you have 27306, then a space, then the word savings, then a space, then 7503.35, right? So the first thing you are reading in is your account number. Please name it the same way as your variables above. Then you're just gonna put those arrows in the same line, right? Account type, and then you're gonna read in balance, just like that, and then semicolon. Then you're done. That's it. That's how you read it. So what code blocks is going to do is going to ignore the spaces that you have in between. You know what spaces I'm talking about? I'm talking about, let me just write what's in my input file. This is what's in my input file, right? It's going to ignore this space and this space. Okay, now let me just run this code for you. I want to show you what actually comes out. Okay, and always close afterwards. I'm going to see out the account number and then I'm going to see out for your let's end the line, and then I'm going to show you the account type, and then I'm going to show you the end line, then I'm going to show you, sorry, what am I doing? Oh yeah, that's why. Why isn't end line like, okay, then I'm going to show you the balance, right? I'll even put an R so that you see the actual money value balance, and then I'm going to end the line. Cool. Let's run this. Okay, account number 27306. Can you see that? Savings is the string account type, and then you have the actual money value, right? So it ignores the spaces in between and takes, so in these variables it recorded this number, this string, this value. Cool. Close the file. Good. Almost done. Let's see. Number 3, control structures. So we're done with task 1 of the tutorial 2. We're done with task 2. Now we're going to do task 3. Let me just comment this whole thing out. Okay. Task 3 is control structures. Okay, so for did I separate the tasks nicely? Yeah. No, I didn't. Okay, let's call this task 2. Sorry, task 2. 2. 2. 2. 2. 2. 2. 2. 2. 2. 2. 2. 2. 2. 2. 2. 2. 2. 2. 2. 2. 2. 2. 2. 2. 2. 2. 2. 2. 2. 2. 2. 2. 2. 2. 2. 2. 2. 2. 2. 2. 2. 2. 2. 2. 2. 2. 2. 2. 2. 2. 2. 2. 2. 2. 2. 2. 2. 2. 2. 2. 2. 2. 2. 2. 2. 2. 2. 2. 2. 2. 2. 2. 2. 2. 2. 2. 2. 2. 2. 2. 2. 2. 2. 2. 2. 2. 2. 2. 2. 2. 2. 2. 2. 2. 2. 2. 2. 2. 2. 2. 2. 2. 2. 2. 2. 2. 2. 2. 2. 2. 2. 2. 2. 2. 2. 2. 2. 2. 2. 2. 2. 2. 2. 2. 2. 2. This was task 1. Just connect this out as well. Sure. Task 1, task 2, and then task 3. Oh, task 3. So task 3, number 1. In C++, oh, so we design true or false. In C++, equals to is the equality operator. Equality. I'm coming back. I need to check something. I'm sorry about that. I had to do something. Alright. Oh man. So in C++, equals to is the equality operator. Now, the equals operator is used to initialize something. It's not to check if things are equal. Every if statement must have a corresponding else false. That's from experience. The expression in the if statement always evaluates to true. Yes, that is true. And why? Because remember, when we say score equals 30, we are assigning score to be 30 and grade to be A. Whoa, wait. I don't know if he forgot to put squiggly brackets or purposely left them out, but it won't compile because there is a syntax error there. What I mean is, like, did I use any variables? No. I make int score and I make grade or character grade. I'm like, if score equals, let's see, and then below that you had grade equals A. Cool. I want to see if this runs. Oh, okay, this actually ran. I just want to see out grade. I want to see what comes out. Hey, okay, cool. So it does run like that. So this assigns score to 30 and grade to A, and it will always be true. So what number was that? C. Yeah, C is true. Okay. Let me move this down here. Star. Let's continue. So we have D now, right? D. The expression character greater than equals to A and character less than equals to Z evaluates to false if either A is less than, if the character is less than A or character is less than equals to Z. So remember so for D, I need to explain something. In C, in code blocks, what you can do, or what is actually there, is that every alphabet is assigned an ASCII value. Let me spell that out for you. ASCII value. And what that means is that it's a American system. Let me just Google it quickly. So what does ASCII stand for? The American Standard Code for Information Interchange. And what that actually is it's a table where every alphabet, let me write that, ASCII table is a table where every character actually is assigned a number. And I think that's how characters which are like just graphical symbols are actually able to be interpreted by a computer. Uh, those that are doing microprocessors would know that in hex, A is what? It's 10, B is 11, C is 12, and so on. Where do you think that comes from? It actually also corresponds to the ASCII table where you'd see, for example, let me make a character called CH like in the TUT, and let me assign it to be A, right? So let me ask you a question. What is, let me show you all this. What is a number minus zero? It's just a number, right? So how is it that I'm able to do this? I'm sorry, small a is, wait, is it 10? Guys, don't tell me I'm giving you wrong information. Anyway, let me just see out and tell you what a is on the ASCII table. Okay, so a on the ASCII table is 97, and capital A, which is a different character from small a, is 65. Sorry, so it's not 10. That was just rubbish. Your ASCII table should be given to you when you write a test. It should be in your, what's this, table of given constants or information table, whatever. Okay, but every character is assigned a number, and that's why we can use less than, greater than, and stuff in if statements for characters because of that rule. Okay. Uh, let's see, what do we want to talk about? So this statement is like CH is greater than equal to A, okay, and it's also less than equal to Z, okay. Evaluates to false if either A character is less than A or this is false, E is false. I mean D is false, okay. So put that below and put here false. Why is it false? Oh, my laptop just switched off. Ah, please bear with me, people. Yeah, you might have to just skip through some parts of this meeting. I mean, of this this tutorial. I'm just quickly going to get back. Um, okay, let me just do this quickly. Bear with me. Mm, 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 mm. Cool. Cool. Right. So back to what we were saying, you said that this is false, and why it is false is because oh, it's true. Sorry, it's true because of that A. If A is if character is going to be less than A, it would be false. If either, so either or, you see. So if one of them, or if both, if either that, which will with ch less than A would result in false, or ch less than equal to z. But in there it has and. The statement is false. Let me read it again. This is so confusing. If ch is greater than equals to and that, so both conditions have to be met. Okay. So does it evaluate to false if A is less than A? Yeah, this is true. This is true. Look, Z has a higher value than A, correct? And if it meets the condition where it's less than A, which is what the question is saying, it will also be less than Z. Therefore, both conditions are met for D in the AND thingy. Yeah, please consult for this one. Go consult your lecturer, please. For D, that's so confusing. The result of a logical, let's go to E. The result of a logical expression cannot be assigned to an int variable. This is false. And what it actually means is when you create something called a Boolean, and let's call it Boolean is shining, not sunning, shining. I'm going to equate it to false. Okay, let's actually code this. I'm going to show you something. Okay, and why I said is shining. So assume in my code for some reason I want to record whether the sun is shining on different days of the week. Okay, so I'm like, according to the weather, if okay, let's make a string, call it Monday. and equate it to shining. Okay, so this is like if Monday is shining, what are we gonna do? Let is shining begin, let be true, else is shining will be false. Okay, I'm just gonna see out. Oh, okay. Now it's like, can you assign this to an integer? So let's make an integer and call it Boolean checker. Okay, now I'm gonna assign it to 9 for now, but if it is in here, I'm gonna say, okay, let's just assign it to 9. And then I'm gonna say bool check is gonna equals to is shining. There we go. So in C++, true is the equivalent of 0 and false is the equivalent of 1. Okay, but I want to prove that with this code. Then I'm gonna see out bool check. Oh, sorry, I made a mistake. I need to create a cin. Yeah, I'm gonna put in Monday. Okay, ignore that for now. I'm gonna run this. So now I'm putting in shining. Shine. Oh, this is how you spell shining. I think I spelled the thing wrong anyway. Let's continue. It's C also 1. Oh, in C++, true is 1 and false is a 0. So I'm gonna put in some weird thing, like it's not gonna be shining, it's gonna be raining, and it returns a 0. So you can pass a boolean to an integer because booleans work integers. Okay, let's do number 2 quickly. Number 2, suppose x, y, and z are integers. X is 12, y is 34, and z is 18. Determine whether the following expressions evaluate to true or false. So A, what is A saying to us there? A is like is not x minus y. What is, how do we even read these in? So is not okay. So x minus y greater than equal to 1. Okay. So just what's in the brackets? Is that true or false? X minus y, which would be 12 minus 34. That's already negative 22. That is not greater than or equal to 1, but this is saying is not. So it is not, so it's true. B, so is Z less than equal to 70? Yes. Or is, see, it's an or. You know when we do ors, the second thing it doesn't even matter because the first one is already true. So x plus y is less than 12. It's not, but since the first one is true or passes, then yeah. So this one here is like x plus y is not equal to 40. X plus y is equals to 46. So the first one's true. Since it's an and, we have to check whether the second one is also gonna pass. So the second one is like x is not equals to z. It's not equals to, so that one they're both true, so it's true. D, z minus x, so 18 minus 12 is 6 is greater than equals to 34, no. Or y minus x, which is 22, is not equals to z plus 4. It is equals to z plus 4. So the second condition is true. Therefore, even though the first one is false, it is still. Oh, wow, okay. So in this case, we have false, which is a 0, and we have the second one, which is true, which is a 1. A 0 or 1 is a 1, so it is true. Then let's go to number 3. I'm just going to put it here. 3. Which of the following are logical or Boolean operators? Let me quickly Google this, but I think I know what it actually means. So, what are Boolean operators? Boolean operators are simple words, and or not, or and not, used as conjunction combination keywords in a search result. In a more focused or production results, these save time effort by eliminating inappropriate it must. Okay. So your Boolean operators are your ands, your evens, your micros things, okay? So when we're there with the micros things, which one of these ones do you which uh, binary operations do you perform with these? Someone's not your mic. Okay. So for number 3, the only one that is a logical operation is C. The first one, A, is a comparison, okay? That compares if A is not equal to B, assuming. And this one does AND, right? But if you put this in an if statement, this is OR, right? It actually performs the binary operation of an OR sign. So if you're ORing A in your C++ code, if you do this A or B, assuming A or B are characters, it's gonna look up, it's like A is 65, it's gonna do the whole thing for 65, and then it's gonna OR it with B, which is assuming that's the next one. Then it ORs the 2, then it gives you the result. So that's the only Boolean operation that's true. C. Then we're done. Thank you for watching the video. Sorry for all the times where I had to actually do something. I am not editing my videos, so I code live and then I just store those on YouTube. So thank you very much for the video. See you in the next one.